Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the welcome, the warm welcome. I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you and to have the opportunity to share some thoughts that matter for all of us. Well, let's see if it works. It works. Great. So I will try to briefly stress a kind of journey into the digital revolution. This is the title. It's working perfectly well. Starting by a personal history, as I come from an historical background. I used to be a student in historical subject back in 2000-something in Paris. And since I have this experience, I will try to stress the fact that for me and for a lot of people, we are in the middle of a digital revolution, which is probably the third revolution. So just for the sake of clarity, the first revolution should be the steam machine age. The second revolution is probably the electricity. And my thought and the thought of a lot of people is like we are in the middle of a third huge revolution, which is the digital age revolution. So this is this kind of journey that I will try to share with you as much as I can based on my experience and knowledge, and I will also try to avoid the too corporate message about Dailymotion, even if I love deeply my company, obviously. So sometimes as a punchline or as a joke, we used to say that change is changing faster, right? We often say that. In fact, it's not a joke, and there is a lot of serious people that are taking it seriously. Think about Ray Kurzweil, who is the Google Director of Engineering. He had elaborated a very complex theory that is named the law of accelerating returns. So the first assumption is like we are in a revolution that is going even faster than we can imagine. Let me try to cover that briefly. So as I told you back in 2004, 2002, I don't exactly remember, I was a student in Paris in the very beautiful, old-fashioned and very well-known Sorbonne University. So that's also for me the occasion to say that I have a kind of thought and more than thought for my fellow citizens in France that are suffering a very hard moment. But back to the digital revolution, I was a student in Paris, and I was doing my thesis about a very unknown general coming from the Napoleon army in France back in the 18th century. Nobody cared about him. He was an unknown general. Except me, nobody cares about him. And I was writing my thesis, and I was deeply looking for a piece of a document, a master key document to finish my thesis, my PhD in history. And I was like really looking for this desperately for this piece of paper, going into every library, every places where I can imagine I will find this piece of paper. And finally, I did find it thanks to internet, thanks to a search engine. I found this masterpiece of paper. By the way, this search engine was Yahoo at that moment. That was even not yet Google. That was Yahoo. So since that time, I have a kind of like strong relationship with internet because it saved my PhD thesis in history, but also because it brings me the first lessons of what is internet about. So back in the 19 to 2004, internet was for me at first and for a lot of us a huge places of infinite resources. It looks like it's the source of all the resources. You can basically find everything on internet. It was all about text, but there was also photo and so on. And so my first experience with internet was, okay, it's an infinite space of infinite resources that we can easily access in 1 or 2 clicks. So that was my first journey with that. And how was it possible? I think it was possible because of thanks of 2 key theories, key rules, or key theory that allow us to see internet or the web as a boundless territory. The first one is the so-called long tail theory. So this long tail theory is coming from an iconic and very well-known character. His name is Chris Anderson. He was the founder and the journalist of the Wired magazine in the US. And he basically brings to us a very important theory, at least for me, the long tail theory. So the long tail theory is something that I can easily digest in that way. On internet, niche content can have the same value and the same utility than a blockbuster. So that's exactly my story with my trying to finish my PhD in history. That was a very niche content, but it has a lot of value for me. So this is about the long tail theory, thanks to Chris Anderson. And the other one is about Gordon Moore. Yeah, here. What we used to call the Moore law. So the Moore law is a more physical theory. So Gordon Moore was, back in the 60s, one of the co-founders of Intel, the huge computer company in the US. And basically what Gordon Moore explained in the 60s was something like the computer processors double in complexity every 2 years. So to say it again, or in a more simple way, the power of the machine double every 2 years. Okay? So thanks to these two key principles for me, we have been able to use and to have the amazing experience to face or to have a kind of boundless territory in terms of what is our internet experience. We feel like there is no limit. The deep is limitless. So that was my first experience with internet. Then in 2004, I became a journalist in the main public TV station in France, so sort of KBS for you here in Korea. The name is France Télévisions. Nobody cared. I was doing journalism in politics in Europe, so that was not very funny, but I learned a lot of things. So just for you to know, for those who don't remember this time, in 2004, when someone in the audience was asking us, so I was working for a TV show about politics. So when someone in the audience was asking to us, oh, can I review the show? Basically, I remember myself walking across the building in the French, in this French TV public, walking across the building, find the DVD team, bring the DVD to my office, and send it by post mail. It took me 20 minutes to send a DVD to someone who has to replay the show, which is probably something very weird for us today. But at that moment, that was also the beginning of this massive change that we are covering, this kind of digital revolution. So after the idea of in boundless territory, internet like a huge and massive source of information, came the idea of something like freedom, because a lot of people starting to express themselves more freely. That was the time for, at least for Europe and US, where blogs were really rising. People were sharing their opinion, sharing their concern, sharing their value, not only on forums but also on blog and then on social networks. And in that sense, internet appeared for me as a kind of new agora, right? And for two obvious reason, it was the new agora. The first one, it's because it was free. Free in the sense of it cost you zero to express your opinion. There is no entry barrier. It's free to express what is important for you. Then the other reason is, again, it's free, but free in terms of control. So there is no control, no gatekeeper, there is no hierarchy. It doesn't mean that there is no rules. Of course, there is rules and we need rules. But there is no control at the beginning. Everyone can share as much as he wants his opinion. So because of that, because of these two key points, internet became, around 2004, 2006, a kind of a huge agora for self-expression, self-opinion, sharing opinion, citizen journalism, the rise of blog, and so on. And at that time, I was, as a journalist, covering also this kind of huge trend. But then I was probably too young and a bit fascinated by politics, so I joined a political party. Nobody is perfect, but don't worry, that was a very classical and center, moderate political party in France. So I used to run their digital campaign during the French presidential election, and that was an amazing moment because it was around 2006. So just for you to know, Facebook was created in 2005, such as YouTube and Dailymotion, Twitter come in 2006. So we are really in that feeling that the wheel is turning, new digital stuff are coming, and a lot of changes, are coming to us. But still, we were in a kind of old world. So the digital revolution was showing up, was coming up, but we are still in an old world. So let me just try to share with you an anecdote. So I was quite young, and I was in a very important board meeting with a lot of deputy minister, a lot of very important personalities. So I was a bit shy, and I was trying to explain how to use video in our new website for the campaign. You can imagine this kind of discussion. And I was trying to say, oh, we should use Dailymotion or YouTube to display our video on our website. It should be cool and so on. And they were literally looking at me like a crazy one, I think for two reasons. First, they didn't know at all what was this Dailymotion or YouTube. At that time, nobody knows about it. That was the first reason. And the other reason was probably also because I was explaining that using Dailymotion or YouTube was free in terms of cost. It was totally free. There is no cost. So I think they were also worried about the fact that there is no cost. They felt like there's something wrong. That's barely impossible. Just for you to remember, in 2005, 2006, I don't know if you do remember that, but at that time, trying to watch a video on internet was a kind of a challenge, almost a nightmare. So usually you try to click on the play button. It takes a bit of while to charge the video itself. The loading was quite long. The buffering was not very good. Then usually the quality was not at all HD. That was pretty low quality. And sometimes at the end, we ask you to open an external plugin such as QuickTime Player or Real-Time Player. So that was not a good experience. That was not simple. That was not easy at all. Then in 2004, 2005, come a company named Macromedia. They are now part of Adobe. And I don't want to be too technical, but they bring something really key in terms of the usage of the digital content. They bring the fact that you can watch easily a video into a web browser through a Flash player. So I'm sorry, it sounds like technical, but in fact, it's just to stress the point that behind this huge digital revolution that seems so easy for us, so natural for us as user, like the smartphone seems so easy, so natural, the iPad again seems so natural, so easy. Behind that, there's a lot of IT development. Sometimes we don't clearly get it at the first look, but it's because of this R&D process, because of this IT research, that we can have a smooth video experience. So just for the one who can remember what was watching a video on internet in 2000 something, that was not very good. So at that moment, we had all the feeling that the magic ingredients for this path of revolution was there. First, it's the feeling that it's infinite. As I told you, the dimension of internet seems to be infinite. There is, again, thanks to the Moore law, this feeling of the fact that the resource is endless. Then we feel that it was fully open, so it's the openness. Again, everyone can share his ID, and it was simple. With the example of Macromedia or Dailymotion, it was simple to do things, to watch video, to share ID, or stuff like that. And then in 2008, I finally joined Dailymotion. What is really important for me to share with you is the fact that little by little, step by step, we were feeling that all the ingredients, all the key points to a large digital media change for a new digital age, all these elements were coming all together to build something very unique, very different. And 7 years ago, everything was already there, but still the road was long. So this is a very famous newspaper magazine from the time that is stressing one of the points that we will also emphasize together, the fact that the user is at the middle of this revolution. We'll get back to it. But let's summarize what are the key points so far. The first one is internet seems to be boundless, but the indexation is perfect. So it means like it's thanks to Google, thanks to the search engine. So even if the surface of the content is huge, you can still in 2 clicks find exactly what you want. So that's the first point. Then the resources seems to have no limit except the Gordon law Moore that I just explained. Then it's easy and accessible. You can easily access to every resources or every content or every digital content that you want. Then it's holistic in the sense that it embraces all the media, so smartphone, tablet, smart TV, computer, everything. And then there is the social effect, something that we will cover, that was really strong. The fact that you matters as a person more than the others, because there is this social effect that we will cover later. And all these key points that I just shared with you are absolutely relevant if you think about the video landscape. So I come from a video background with my experience at Dailymotion, and also I think it's really important for us to share some thought about what is this video digital revolution about, YouTube, Dailymotion, Facebook, and all the new kids on the block. And all these milestones are really relevant for the video model. Let me just share that with you. So first, I told you that the web seems for me like an infinite space. So a clear example of that is like on Dailymotion right now, you have 65 million videos available right now at the moment as a catalog. If you consider YouTube, Dailymotion, and all the other video platforms, every minute there's 300 hours of content that is uploaded on this platform. 300 hours of content uploaded on the platform. And everything is directly accessible, again, within 2 clicks. So it's still infinite, but accessible. Then the idea of it's free in terms of cost, the resource is endless, and the quality is constantly increasing. So same example, when I started at Dailymotion in 2008, when you want to upload a video, you have a limit in terms of weight of the video that was 200 MO, something like that. Today, for all of you, and on each and every video platform, you can even upload HD content or 4K content without any cost. So the quality is constantly increasing, but the costs are constantly decreasing. It's something very important that we used to call the race to zero. So the price are going to zero, but the service is still growing. Another example is you can, from your room, very easily live stream anything that you want, just from your room with an internet connection. You can stream esports play or anything, or you speaking about something. I mean, you have the freedom and the cost to reach, theoretically, everyone all across the world from your room for zero. That's, again, very, very spectacular. Then even if I'm not a geek, I can testify that it's simple. It's very simple to use. Even my father can upload a video on Dailymotion. It's very, very simple to upload a video on a social platform because it's user-centric. So everything is, the mindset is, okay, how the user can have a nice and smooth and easy experience through the platform. And it's holistic in the sense that it covers all screen, all devices. So a year ago, something like a year ago, YouTube and also Dailymotion announced that they have more than 50% of their audience that is coming from smartphone, mobile. So for you in Korea, it seems absolutely obvious, as you have probably one of the best network experience in all the countries I have been able to visit. If you take the subway in Seoul, my connection to my application are better than in my house in Singapore. So it's amazing, but it's not the case in each and every country. So for instance, here in Korea, 75% of our audience is coming from mobile, where in Spain it's 40%. So there is still discrepancy country by country. But globally speaking, we are what we used to say device agnostic. It means that whatever the device, whatever the content, you should have access to it in the best quality possible. So in that sense, we cover all the device. And I think this question of devices is really, really important. So I think we have a video. I will try to play it. That's a kind of challenge. So this video is coming from very famous actors in the US. His name is Kevin Spacey. He used to play in a very, I think, quite iconic series, drama named House of Cards. Okay, and he was doing this speech, and he was, I think, very well explaining this question of how device matter or not matter. Maybe we can play it.
So I predict that in the next decade or two, any differentiation between these platforms will fall away. Is 13 hours watched as one cinematic whole really any different than a film? Do we define film as being something 2 hours or less? Surely it goes deeper than that. If you're watching a film on your television, is it no longer a film because you're not watching it in a theater? If you watch a TV show on your iPad, is it no longer a TV show? The device and the length are irrelevant. The labels are useless, except perhaps to agents and managers and lawyers who use these labels to conduct business deals. But for kids growing up now, there's no difference. Watching Avatar on an iPad or watching YouTube on a TV, or watching Game of Thrones on their computer. It's all content. It's just story. To say nothing of the audience's attention span. I mean, for years, particularly with the advent of the internet, there's people griping about, lessening attention spans. But if someone can watch an entire season of a TV series in one day, doesn't that show an incredible attention span? Because when the story is good enough, people can watch something 3 times the length of an opera. What'd you do last weekend?
So, of course, he's a great speaker, way better than me, but he's also a great actor, and he was also the producer of this series, House of Cards, this drama that was displayed on Netflix in the US. I think it's a very, very unique and great way to describe what is about this digital revolution, coming from someone, this Kevin Spacey, very famous actor, that he started in theater back in the US a few decades ago. So his journey across the digital revolution testify how well he was able to accept and embrace this digital revolution. And at the end, he produced a purely digital drama for Netflix. I think that was an amazing example of how we can embrace this digital video. So, and after the devices, just a few words about the social effect and about this point. In the classical media history, or at least for us at some point in Europe, and I think that's pretty the same for Asia, the relation between the content and the consumer was always through a human recommendation, or something like a human recommendation. But thanks or because of internet, came a new way to have interaction between a content and a user. That was the algorithm, the data-driven algorithm, the machine learnings that bring us to algorithm. That was Google at some point. So that was a new and different way to have a relation between a content or a creation and a user. And then on top of that come a new way to have this relation through the social effect. So in my social network, the opinion of someone or the recommendation of someone on a creation or a content matter more than the recommendation of a search engine or the recommendation of, let's say, a journalist or an editor. So we had these 3 times that are now combined in probably one moment. I think there is value for each of them, and I think there is value for us as a user to use each of them. Still, journalism recommendation makes sense. The algorithm and the search engine made a lot of sense, and of course, social networks do have sense, of course. But probably there's a 4 way to consume content, and a lot of companies are already working on that. It's the predictive way to have access to the content. So it's in that sense, if you think about Google Now, which is a new product from Google, or the amazing Watson IBM product. So if you look for Watson on YouTube, you will see that they have like this video. They have amazing video where the computer is beating the 2 champions in a TV game because of the predictive machine learning that is coming behind Watson. So maybe the last way to consume content or to put creation in relation with the user will be a predictive way. Because we have data from your history and what you like, what you dislike, we're able to offer you a great content experience. That will be maybe the next step. So all this stuff that are exactly what I have learned from my Dailymotion experience so far. And I think these milestones are still absolutely relevant. It's all about free access, simple access. It's holistic. It's user-driven, data-driven. I think all of these words explain the success of companies such as Dailymotion, YouTube, or all the social network that we have mentioned. So after this journey comes the difficult question, and this is the first difficult question that I want to share with you and try to answer if I can. So how long does it take for a revolution? Well, so far, if you are still listening to what I was trying to explain, it is. We should have the feeling that, okay, the revolution is already here, it's already done, and the old ages are, if old ages mean something, are behind us. But in fact, it's not true. And the revolution is not done, not yet, and there's still a lot of things to be done, and still a lot of change to come. So let me give you a very funny example, I think. coming from the US market, because the US is always a great market to test some new idea, but also some behavior. So if you look at the data from the US, last year, the consumption of video on internet doubled from 20 minutes to 40 minutes. If you take the TV consumption in the US, it slightly decreased from 4.4 hours and a half to 4 hours and 29 minutes. So last year in the US, which is supposedly be, you know, the Silicon Valley place and where all this big new digital revolution is coming from and so on, last year in the US, as an average, the overall population was watching 4.1 minutes of TV per day. So there is still TV everywhere, right? We still have TV at home. So let me try to explain why we still have TV at home. So first, there is a small reason that I just want to stress is the fact that in some countries, I know that you have some guests from Indonesia. Indonesia is a country that I deeply loved. I have family there. But Indonesia or India or some places in Africa, the quality of the network, the quality of the bandwidth doesn't allow this revolution pace to go at the same speed, of course. So that's obvious, and that's still something that is a kind of a barrier on that. But there is other reason. The first, I think, is because the new digital model was not clear, was not obvious. Let me try to explain that. I will explain that by using my own experience at Dailymotion, or I think it's pretty the same for YouTube. So when Dailymotion was founded in 2005, the idea of the service or the path of the service was not absolutely clear. And that was exactly the same for YouTube, exactly the same story. So we are not absolutely clear about what is the purpose of the service. And we were thinking, okay, we are a UGC website, UGC for user-generative content. And in a few months, we discovered that, okay, we're a UGC website, but not only. So, of course, on Dailymotion, such as on YouTube, since the beginning, people are uploading content that they have created by themselves. It could be their movie from their holiday experience. It could be some kids doing some sports challenge. It could be a lot of different videos, and it even goes to the famous Me at the Zoo from YouTube, or the very famous on Dailymotion dog doing skateboard. You know, all this like video from the beginning of Dailymotion and YouTube as platform. So it was about UGC. It exists, and a lot of people upload this kind of content on video platform. But we also realized that a lot of people upload on all this video platform content that they really like. It could be music, it could be movies, it could be news, it could be dramas, it could be a lot of things. And they do upload this content on video platform, not because they are pirates or because they I don't know. They just upload this video because they like it, because they are fun, because they are engaged, because this content matters for them. So we discovered that, and honestly, we discover it, and we take the lessons of that, and we try to open a new area where we do partnership with all the media. So it's something that we will get back on, but it's just the first point is if the revolution is still yet to continue, it's probably because that was not clear at the beginning, from the beginning, what was the final purpose of this huge new digital age. And by the way, and that's a key lesson for me, the way that people use a service, or a video platform, anything, the way that people use your service change your service. So even if we had created the YouTube or Dailymotion with the mindset of, okay, it's a UGC platform, there's still the way that people use it, change it. And that was exactly the story for YouTube and Dailymotion. The other obvious reason why this revolution is not done yet is the money. The money doesn't follow the user at the same rhythm. It takes more time for agencies and brands to follow the new trends than it takes for the user, obviously. So if you take the figures on a worldwide basis, there is 39% of the investment in terms of advertising that is still going to TV, and 30% which is going to digital. If you take Europe, it's 44% on digital, 30% on TV. And if you take UK, I think UK will be, by the end of the year, the first country where half, so more than 50% of the revenues are going to digital. 50% of the investment are going to digital. UK will be, I think, the first country where more than half of the revenues and investment are going to the digital. But still, there is a large, vast amount of investment, revenues and money that is still going to existing media such as TV, newspaper, and so on. Again, some data coming from the US. In 2012, the increase of investment into TV was almost $4 billion for TV in the US. That was less than $1 billion for video, digital advertising. In 2018, it will be $2.6 billion of growth for TV, $1.8 billion of growth for digital. So even if the user are going to new platform, new service, new way to consume the creation of the content, well, it takes time for the agency, the brand, and the economic rationale behind that to follow the trend. The third reason is there is a huge and strong ecosystem behind, economic ecosystem, but not only, behind all the existing media, behind the TV, behind the movie, behind the music, behind the newspaper, and so on. Let me be very explicit in using some of the more iconic names coming from the Silicon Valley in the US. So let's have some example. Let's take Uber as an example. So Uber, as you probably know, is this taxi application that is, everyone is speaking about Uber as the most incredible successful story from the Valley and so on. So of course Uber is probably an amazing success, but still there is taxi in each and every country all across the world. There is no Uber in each and every country all across the world. There is no Uber here in Seoul. Nobody is using Uber in Japan. Nobody, a few people are using Uber in Jakarta or in a lot of other countries. And if we try to gather all the revenues coming from Uber and we compare to the rest of the taxi industry, Uber represents less than 10%. Same for Airbnb. I'm sure you know Airbnb. It's the very famous hotel-like application that allow you to book a room at someone places. So Airbnb is, again, iconic, very well known, but economists think that it represents less than 0.6% of the revenues of the global hotel industry. And still, you can go all across the world. You will easily find an hotel. It's available everywhere. So same with the bank industry and lending clubs. Even the same with Amazon or Alibaba. If you take Amazon in the US, the revenues of Amazon is 6 times smaller in the US than the Walmart supermarket. And last example, but this is probably the best one, Telsa. Telsa, I don't know if you know Telsa. It's a new car company that are building like the car of the future in that sense. It's a very iconic company and with a CEO that is full of leadership, Elon Musk. So he's he's already a legend in our business. But in last August, Telsa sold 2,000 cars in the US. It's 0.2% of the market. So even when you have great companies coming with amazing product, with brilliant idea and great leadership and everything, it takes time because there is a relevant ecosystem that is producing value for a lot of people. And by the way, this ecosystem was the one also who bring to us a lot of growth back from the end of Second World War to right now. So this ecosystem is still relevant, is still very strong, and that's why it takes time. Also, this ecosystem is not only an economic ecosystem, it's also a value creation chain that allow a lot of people to create amazingly qualitatively content for a lot of people, for the audience all across the world. So this revolution takes time because there is an existing ecosystem that is working quite well. And even for the digital disruption, it takes time to change it. And last reason, it's probably the worst, because we probably all know, at least in my digital environment, that this new digital age comes with value destruction, or what we used to call the creative destruction. It's a kind of concept from a very famous Eastern European economist named Joseph Schumpeter. Creation comes with destruction. So basically, with this new creation, with this new value creation coming from the digital age, there is a lot of risk. And we don't have to say, oh, everything is perfect, that the new digital age, that's a nice revolution. And close your eyes, that will be perfect. No, there is risk, and it's normal to just share it and think about it. So the first risk is the fact that there is always a chance for what we used to call the winner-take-all effect. And it's a real risk, and we have to face it. The winner-take-all effect is the idea of a deep concentration of the players and the actors in the benefit of one of them. And it's a real risk. The other risk, major one, is the fact that this new creation, destruct value. Let me have a very, very simple example. Think about, for a TV company, how much does it cost to reach 1 million people? So let's say you're a TV company and you want to produce a show, and your target audience is 1 million people. So there is cost to produce the show. There is, of course, cost in terms of infrastructure. There is cost in terms of distributing your signal, everything. So you have a lot of cost, and finally you can reach 1 million person thanks to this show and all this production chain. Then think about PewDiePie, the Swedish leaders of YouTube figures, or think about other creators, and think what is the value for them of creating this piece of content and being able to reach 1 billion people. Think about Zoella, the lifestyle celebrity in UK. For us to create a video that will reach a few hundreds million people costs her a very, very small part of what are the actual costs for the TV. So it destructs value. You can reach 1 million people with probably hundreds less investment. So there is a real value destruction. It's not only a joke. And at least there is a kind of question or doubt on the fact that the repartition of this value will be naturally equal or will be fair, or we can always and we should always question what we call the trickle-down effect. That's not clear. There is no guarantee for that. So for all these good reasons, the media landscape was a bit skeptical, to be polite, or maybe worried by this digital revolution, and I can understand why, honestly. So what happened? Basically, nature hates emptiness. So what I mean by that? Globally speaking, we had two very different type of landscape. On one side, the classical media, the existing media, were a bit scared and not very confident about embracing this digital revolution, globally speaking. On the other hand, because nature hates emptiness, and also because the access to this platform are free, a lot of new people, new creators, new producer, new talent join all this platform. That was obviously the story of Dailymotion, obviously the story of YouTube. It is obviously the story of Instagram, Vine, and all of us. So there is a kind of huge wave of young and talented people, not always young, but new people in this scene that are creating a lot of content, sharing a lot of content, recreating the way to produce this content, recreating the subject and the categories of this content. Suddenly, gaming became, well, of course, for you here in Korea, gaming is obviously very, very important, but for a lot of people in Europe, it's still something that they are trying to understand. So, for instance, new categories, new type of content came on the front page thanks to the rise of this new digital creation scene. So I was mentioning esports. I can also mention at some point lifestyle. Think about the trend of unboxing stuff. It's amazing, like billion people are watching other people that are sharing unboxing of kids' contents or Nike shoes or so on. So there's a huge new way to create content. And at least because behind that there is business, a lot of new companies, agency were created. Think about, I can name them, Fullscreen in the US or Machinima also in the US, Believe in Europe. Here I think about Treasure Hunter or Dia TV. So all of them are the so-called multi-channel network, MCN. So they have been able to create all this value chain with all these creators, being the new companies that organize this massive creation, this massive new rise of content creation, and they have made an amazing job by organizing all this rise of content creation. And by the way, at the end of the day, Maker Studio, one of the key MCN in the US, was bought by Disney for $500 million. So globally speaking, while the new creatives were, like the new kids on the block, were really gathering billion of views, subscriber, attraction from the brands and so on. Finally, I think the TV, music, maybe not the music, but all the existing media finally decided to join YouTube or Dailymotion or the other platform, something around 2012, 2010, depends on the country. I'm saying probably not music because in fact music has done it in 2006, 2007, and they have signed contract and partnership with each and every platform to distribute their content. So music is probably a bit specific, but all the other media have joined in 2010, 2012, and now they are doing an amazing job, and they are gathering a lot of users, a lot of viewers. Think about ZTV in India, think about Canal Plus in France, think about CBS in the US, SBS here, or NBC here in Korea. So a lot of TV networks are now, TV network or newspaper or what else, are now fully embracing this digital revolution, and we finally get the perfect landscape for this question, for the digital age. So this is, on the picture, this is Kevin Spacey, the same actors. I don't know if you, well, probably, anyway, that's Kevin Spacey. So I was just mentioning that it comes the hard question. That's probably why you can see there's a bit of blood on his hand, because he's he's playing a very hard character in the drama. So here's come the real hard question, just for me to conclude. So the real hard question is, right now we have this landscape where all the content creative industry are fully embraced into this new digital age. Right? They have, all of them have jumped into this new platform, new way to share content, new way to produce it, and new way to access to the audience. Mostly all of them. I don't have any exception in mind. So we have this kind of perfect landscape where there is UGC, new digital creators, and classical media, and all of them are gathering in a kind of fair battle for grabbing the attention of the users. And for me, there is two different options that we should consider to conclude. The first option, the first path, is complementarity, in the sense of the new media. The media will be soluble in the digital landscape. Soluble is when you put sugar in the coffee, or coffee with your sugar. Basically, you need one to increase the other. They are complementarity, soluble. The other scenario is substitution. Instead of coffee, you use tea. It's substitution. Usually, in the media study, we used to say that there is no media killing the previous one. So theater was not killed by books. Books were not killed by radio. Radio wasn't killed by TV. TV by movie, and so on. So it's true. There is still books, movies, theater, and everything. But there is no rules to say that it will still continue. There is no guarantee for that, first. And also, the digital age is very specific in the sense that it is holistic, again. So holistic means it can gather all the different experiences. So on internet, theoretically, you can have book, theater, music, radio, TV, movie, everything. So it's a huge difference. But still, my opinion is very optimistic about it. I do believe, and I strongly believe, in complementarity. I think there's a lot of space, a lot of possibilities for these complementarities, and I don't see any, in fact, war between the content creation and the digital platform. Let me read you a short extract of Reed Hastings. So Reed Hastings is the CEO of Netflix. I think you will discover Netflix soon in Korea. I think they have planned to come here in Korea, as far as I know. And Reed Hastings is saying something that I agree deeply. People love TV content, and we still watch over 1 billion hours a day of linear TV. But people don't love the linear TV experience, where channels are presented programs at particular times on non-portable screen with complicated remote control. So I think he's absolutely right. And if you think about the music as an industry, as a content industry, as a creation industry, you have exactly the same experience. Music as a device is in fact dead. You don't consider anymore tape or vinyl or CD, or nearly. Everyone is switching to the streaming experience or the purely digital experience. So as a device, music is not anymore a CD or a tape. But for the user, it's a huge progress. Just imagine that right now, for the price of one CD, you can have access to basically each and every piece of songs that have been recorded since the beginning. Again, this idea of no limit, it's free. You can have, not exactly free, $10. You can have access to an infinite catalog of music. So it's, for the user, it's crazy. It's an amazing value proposition. But of course, this digital revolution, which is a huge progress for me if I love the music, is also a question for the music industry. So if you look at the figures of the music industry, in 1999, the global value of the music industry business was $26 billion. Right now, it's $15 billion. So of course, there is also some value destruction. But still, I'm very optimistic. I don't think that the purpose of Dailymotion as a platform, YouTube as a platform, or Youku, or Facebook, or Snapchat, or all the ones that are involved in this digital new experience is to enter in a war with content creators or media creators. It's the opposite. We are dying for working with them. We are asking constantly for partnership and working with them. So that's why I'm very optimistic, and I'm very positive about the fact that in the coming months, in the coming years, that will be all about complementarity and not at all about substitution. Well, if I'm very positive, I still need to, and that will be my conclusion, to share the fact that there is, for me, 4 key points that need to be stressed just to conclude. The first one is, if we want this new digital age to be complementary with the existing media landscape first, we need the media leaders to fully embrace this digital age. I think it's globally the case, and I have to say that all the decision makers that I have the occasion to meet in my job are really in that mood. I think they have to go even faster. They have to onboard. They have to take risks. They have to speed their way to embrace the digital revolution. Most of them are doing that, but they can speed up. They need to speed up. Then I think the video sharing platform, or globally speaking, the social networks and the new services or applications that we are all using, need to be more generous and more friendly with the actual media. We need to share the value in a better way. And the 2 last point is, of course, the advertising market needs to follow the rhythm. And last, we need to be aware and conscious that there is a risk for value destruction, and there is a risk for another type of redistribution, but we need to accept that. So for me, the very positive message is, at the end of this digital age, I strongly believe in complementarity, and I do not think that we'll see substitution at all. Thank you very much.